Hey there viewers, welcome back to another episode of Ray of All Trades. Today we are working on a Subaru. It's a 3,100 pounds per square inch power washer. It is the EA190V model. Owner said that it starts up just fine most of the time, but the biggest complaint is when he hooks up water to it and it's not running, the pump leaks water. So let's get a hose hooked up to it and turn the water on and see where that water's coming from. First thing I notice is that these O-rings on the hose, I'm not sure if you guys can focus in on that or not, but they're cracked really bad. So there's these O-rings here that are replaceable, and any power wash place will sell them by the 10-pack. I'll have to look and see if I can see the number of them, but some rust is forming on there, and that'll cause the hoses themselves to leak just a little bit, the O-ring and the rust. But he was saying it was coming out of the pump really fast, so I doubt this is our problem. Let's keep digging. It doesn't look like a relief valve. It looks like it's a potentially cracked pump. Let's take the pump off and see what we can dig into, but I'm fairly confident we're going to be replacing this pump. So we got the power washer up on the table. We're going to be taking out 3 bolts that hold the pump to the motor. The bolt goes all the way through, so the bolt head is on the bottom, goes all the way up. The one on the bottom appears to be a 12 millimeter, while the one on the top is a 13 millimeter or 1/2 inch. Let's go ahead and get these out of here. And we got one on the front. Let's like to access the one on the front. Let's like to take off the pump. To get access to that bolt, we gotta use a T30. T30 on that side, held back by a 10 millimeter nut on the other side. And this one has a battery. That's what that large thing is right there. Held in place by a battery. This side, the back side of this pump, the nut is captured, it's welded in place. So the other side, the nut's replaceable. And then this hose right here would have gone to the soap dispenser on the back of here. Let's finish getting this bolt out so we can get our pump off of there. Now these pumps are held on by friction. Some of them you're going to have to use a pry bar, say a couple prayers, everything else, and some of them just fall right off. Let's see what we have here. That's a good sign that it's already moving. Okay. So let's talk about what causes these pumps to go out. These pumps are pretty robust unless you run them with no water going through them. In other words, have the motor running, nothing going through the pump to cool it. So the water is actually what cools this. So the other major problem with these, and this kid have that problem, I don't know. Actually, this honestly sounds like it fell apart internally. Another thing that causes the problem is, you see all this water coming out of here, even though I've had the hose disconnected? The water will stay inside this aluminum housing, and people will put it away for the season because they power washed all their furniture, their deck, everything else. They'll put it away and not realize that there's a little bit of water inside these jets and pumps and housings and everything else. The water will freeze. Water expands when it freezes, And believe it or not, that expansion of that water is enough to crack these housings. And that's the majority of what happens on these. Gaskets can go bad, seals can go bad, a whole bunch of items like that. But most of the ones I see are, yeah, see that? I don't know if you can tell, there's water just pouring out of this thing right now. That until I flipped it over, I couldn't get all that water out of there. Best way to do it is house these things in a climate controlled environment. The second best option is to push air through them when you're ready to store them, and then follow it up with some WD-40. So let's just for giggles, let's take this apart. I want to say that this pump is about 80 bucks, something like that, for an entire new pump. But just for giggles, let's see if we can take it apart and take a look inside, see if we can see anything obvious. I mean, there's always a chance that just a gasket failed. I kind of doubt it though. And yeah, water's just pouring out of this thing. So, do you think you got all the water out of it? Look how much was actually trapped inside there. They're difficult to get them completely dry. Let's see. Number 0225170514. Use SAE 85W90, made in China. So it's got another part number on here, 308653078. I don't know. Yeah, I'm hearing something falling apart inside this thing. And this is part of a seal that came out of this thing. I really don't have high hopes for repairing this. When you're taking these pumps apart, keep in mind that a lot of this stuff is spring loaded. So when you go to pull it apart, it's pretty likely that stuff's going to spring apart on you really quickly. Let's see if I can get this without putting it in a vise. And when that happens, you can't really tell where something was. So like I said, even though I'm probably changing this pump out, maybe I can get it apart and make a video of what it looked like internally, so you guys can put yours back together if need be. Yeah, that right there is your actual pressure regulator of the output. Because you could turn that up and increase pressure. Don't do it. They are set to match what the pump and everything else is capable of doing. Anyway, that is a spring-loaded valve. So when you let off of the trigger, it's an unloader valve. I keep calling it pop-off valve. It's an unloader valve, and it's made to move to allow water to bypass the output and without burning up the pump. So it's called the unloader valve. And then right here is probably a filter for the water coming out, because this is where your soap comes in. Water's getting pushed out here at a high pressure, and I want to say that there's another filter behind here. So, and you can take that apart. Anyway, oh, I got one more screw. I've talked about the way that these pumps work on other videos, but basically the motor, which comes in the other side of there, has a keyway on it, and it spins around obviously in a circle. It has a wobble shaft on it, so that shaft is on an angle, and so as it turns, it's pushing one valve down, allowing the other one to come up. Pushes that one down, allows that one to come up, because it's just spinning around like that. That's how these things actually work. Okay. Yep. These are your valves. So that wobble shaft, as it's spinning, is pushing this one down, this one up, this one's halfway, then it'll allow this, as it spins around, this one will then pop up, this one will push down, that one will go. So these are just basically up and down, right? in here there's water passages, I think with check valves that allow the water to build pressure. So anyway, there's rubber cups in here that seal up along here, and then of course there's also these gaskets right here. So, and when you run these dry, they have no lubrication. The metal rubbing on this rubber will wear it right on out, so that shouldn't go on that easy. I've also got loose stuff in here, loose chunks of metal, which means loose chunks of metal that is on the inside of the pump, for me, means I'm done. I haven't found the complete end to it yet, but I can tell you that water coming out of this, because we saw water coming out of this part of the body, right? I'm almost positive. If water was coming out of this part of the body, it was getting right past these seals here and those seals there. So, because all of this was mashed together, and you see there's no gasket here, which means it's utilizing these surfaces, like this seal right here, to seal that up, and those were leaking. If you're needing to rebuild these, you're actually going to be replacing those little white triangles down there, these O-rings that are here. That one's completely torn in half. Yeah, pump was run dry is my guess. Whenever you see one that's broken, you almost always see like a crack running across because it had no place to go when it built pressure up. Just dissecting. I've already decided I'm replacing this thing. I'm just dissecting this in case you guys happen to take one apart and want to use this video as a guide for putting it back together. Okay, there was a O-ring right there that I just knocked off. O-ring right there I just knocked off. These O-rings obviously would have to be changed. These valves are very similar to those valves, which, like I said, are these are moving up and down, like building pressure, and I think there's check valves that allow the water to only go one direction. Most likely there's a spring and a steel ball underneath these. Yeah, the rebuild kit, very likely a whole bunch of O-rings, a whole bunch of valves, more O-rings there, maybe these brass bushings. Oh, there we go. Alright. Yep, there is an O-ring right there. It's completely destroyed. I don't know if y'all can see it or not. Completely destroyed. O-ring on the outside of this valve. There's another O-ring right here. And then there is some sort of a clip underneath that. And then, does this come out? Nope. So I broke it taking it out. There's probably a tool to take it out, but I just gave it a pull, and when I did, there was a spring underneath it, and it appears to be a check ball. Let's see if I can get that out of there. Well, it's not a check ball, but it is a plate like a check ball. It's got a dome to it. So anyway, hopefully that part of the video helped you guys. I'm going to go ahead and order this part, this valve, probably off of Amazon. Be here in a couple of days, and I bet you that pump is 80-90 bucks for the whole thing. I'll just slide it right on the new one and fire it up, and we'll be good to go. Welcome back, guys. Finally got the parts in. It is a Wasper pump, W-A-S-P-P-E-R. Part number on this one is 020-721-0869. Anyway, it is the listed as the direct replacement. I don't know if y'all can see that. It is listed as the direct replacement for 3086-53078, which was the old pump. I don't know if you can see that either. Anyway, looks identical. Only difference from last time I was with y'all to now is that my workbench has a steel 460 and about 100 pieces on it waiting for some parts to come back. That's going to be a good video, I think, anyway. So there is a keyway on here that key belongs in. You can either put it on the motor or put it inside the pump. Either way, as long as it's sitting in there flat, then you're going to line it up with the motor shaft, and then you can use the pump to rotate it, the body of the pump. So just start it like that, and then this pump needs to line up with the motor holes. And so what I'm going to be doing is looking for, let's see, I think these bolts went from the bottom up. They usually do. I'm just looking to line up this hole with the body of the, or excuse me, with the engine. Just go ahead and get those started. So the motor's sliding around on top of here. That's what I'm trying to line up, is the motor. There we go. That went up through the top. I don't know if y'all can see that. Hopefully you can. That one's through there. I've got one on this side. Once you have two of them in, the third one should be pretty close. Just snug them down before you tighten it up all the way. And the only reason I say that is because if it gets off by too much, you might crack the pump. This is my last one, so I'm going to go ahead and snug this one on down. Where's the hose? There's the hose. Looks like it goes through there for the soap. And the soap container plugs into the other side of it. There. Sits on top like that. And the battery comes up on the back side like that. This side has a captured nut on the back side. Let's get that side started. Let's get this side started. Tighten up our wires. I'd like to pull that bowl off of there real quick before we get too far. I don't know how long it's been before, since we've started, since he started this thing. And it's real easy to check. So the fuel's already shut off. Let's get some gloves on, pull that bowl off. Just make sure that what's coming out of there is clean before we go hook up water and find out that it's all gummed up. Let's see what we get. $10mm, by the way. Yeah, just like I thought. It's got a lot of junk in it. Seems to be in the bottom of that, but tell you what, let's just spray this out real fast. It doesn't smell terrible. I can't even get a cup under there. Let's just check to make sure that fuel flows. Yep, fuel flows like it's supposed to. And then let's see if we shut it off. Yep, so the float's working like it's supposed to. All I want to do is just spray to make sure that the main jet isn't clogged, and let's clean out this bowl real quick. So the thing is, it would probably run. But just trying to give it every fighting chance we can. It's been sitting, and ethanol gas has caused a lot of grief for a lot of people. There we go, looking considerably better. Still a large chunks are out of it. Be really careful if you're doing this like I am, because you can mess up putting the gasket in place. But if you can see it, there's nothing really wrong with putting it down like this. Just get a quick visual and make sure that that gasket's in there all the way around. And it's not. Let me adjust it. There we go. That's pretty close. I'll start the bolt, and then I will check it one more time. You don't want to pinch that gasket. That will put you out of commission pretty quick. They just need to be snug. Don't go too tight with them. All right. Now, based on the fact he told me it ran, and that's cleaning those out, I'm feeling like we probably have a pretty good chance here. Let me find the O-rings for those lines, and I'll be right back with you guys. So the O-ring I showed y'all before is cracked pretty bad. Unfortunately, with these type of O-rings, you're pretty much committed as soon as you start messing with them, because they'll probably never seal again. You know, the old ones. So this one was cracked really bad. Let's get it out of here and see if the ones that I have match up. Just using a pick. Okay. Yeah. That ought to do it. Just roll them in place. I'll meet you guys outside. I'll get the water hooked up. We'll fire it up and see if she works. Okay, got the garden hose hooked up to it. Get the water bled out of it. I said water, but I really meant air. Let's get the air bled out of it. Good catch for whoever said that. Let's use let's grab a white tip. I'll lock it in place. So, middle position is cold start. Oh, you know what? It started on my carb cleaner I put in there. So let's get that bowl filled up. turning off the fuel and letting it run until it dies on its own is probably the best advice anybody could ever give you. So let's say you change a pump on a power washer that the pump seals have basically gone out. Just match up the numbers, bolt it on, good as new. That little trick about turning off the fuel before you put this thing away will keep all of that junk that we had to take out of the carburetor clean, and it'll prevent you from having to bring a whole lot of equipment to the shop. So I do that to all my equipment, 2-stroke, 4-stroke, all of it. Just run it out of fuel and store it that way. And if I'm going to be storing it over the winter, I'll also empty out the fuel tank as well. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Hope you learned something. If you did, I really appreciate a like and subscribe. Helps the channel tremendously. And as always, thank you, and catch you on the next one.